Good Sunday morning. In just moments, my exclusive one-on-one interview with Attorney General Jeff Sessions coming up. Does he regret his recusal in the Russia probe? Plus, Ken Starr breaking down the new indictments laid out by the Justice Department. Ken Starr will join me momentarily. And in another exclusive interview, House Speaker Paul Ryan defends his spending increases to support the military. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. I'm Maria Bartiromo. Welcome to Sunday Morning Futures. This morning, we will hear from Attorney General Jeff Sessions. I will get his take on everything from the immigration battle, alleged corruption at the top of the FBI, and the missed clues in that deadly Florida high school shooting spree. Where did authorities go wrong? Plus, a closer look at the new indictments laid out in the Russia probe. Where does the investigation go now? Former independent counsel Ken Starr will join me live. Plus, an exclusive interview with Speaker Paul Ryan. How does the Speaker of the House respond to the critics of his new spending bill? Does he plan to stick around after the midterm elections? All that coming up right now as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures. Developments this past Friday in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. Mueller indicting 13 Russian nationals on Friday, accusing them of interfering in the 2016 presidential election. Coming up in just a moment, we will hear from former independent counsel Ken Starr about that. But first, my exclusive interview with the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. I spoke with Mr. Sessions just a few hours before the indictments were handed down, and I asked him about the Mueller probe, including his decision to recuse himself from anything involving Russia. But I began with the immigration battle and the negotiations that simply fell apart on Thursday.
Look, this is an opportunity for the American people, maybe our last real opportunity to create an immigration system that's lawful, that ends the lawlessness, the illegality, and serves the national interest. President Trump's plan is strong. The Grassley bill included that pretty effectively. It's the kind of legislation I think could work, that I supported, and it didn't pass. But I got to say, we have got to talk about this as a nation. We need the President Trump's plans call for ending the illegality, having real enforcement with a border wall. It calls for merit-based system instead of the chain migration. It calls for ending the visa lottery, which is a ridiculous policy and always has been. Why we can't get that done baffles me, and I think it's the American people are there, and we cannot stop. We've got to get this done.
So is there anything that the administration is willing to give on? I mean, surely you saw that op-ed in the Journal on Friday, which was titled President Miller's Immigration Veto. And they talk about the fact that this last bill included authorizing $25 billion over 10 years for the wall on the Mexican-U.S. border. That was a victory. It's $2.5 billion in the first year, probably more than the Democrats wanted. So where is the opportunity to come halfway?
Well, we don't have to go halfway beyond the fundamentals. President Trump's fundamentals are good. Who can oppose ending the visa lottery? Who wants to continue the lawlessness? Who wants to create a situation in which you get amnesty, a legality for young people that are here, and not end up with a legal system that will be enforceable in the future? There's nothing mean-spirited about it. We admit 1 million people a year lawfully into America. Hundreds of thousands of workers are here in addition to that every year taking jobs. So we're not talking about ending immigration. The president's in no way talking about being unkind. And if sometime in the future, after the illegality has ended, we can begin to talk about people who've been here a long time and who've not violated our laws in other ways.
Do you expect to get a deal done on DACA before the March 5th deadline, sir?
I don't know. The people who say they want to fix that, President Trump has offered them that. He's been very generous in his legislation. I think that is a very generous policy. Goes beyond actually what President Obama had in his DACA policy, goes beyond what even some people who favored the DACA expected. So that's been very generous. So he's already made compromises. So the question really is, is, when we pass this bill, will we once more fool the American people? Will we once more just give legality, legal status to people who entered the country illegally and never follow through on, in an effective way, the promises that have been made to them politically?
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, on the enforcement side, there are some big loopholes in this legislation. You cannot leave the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice unable to actually deport people who entered the country illegally.
Well, I think you make a great point. There's a lot more to come on this, so I want to get back to this subject because I want to address something else. You mentioned lawlessness. There appears to have been a lot of lawlessness going on in government over the last 8 or 10 years, and I want to ask you about the abuses of the FISA court because any way you look at it, it appears the FBI and the Department of Justice were abusing their power over the election because they simply did not like Donald Trump. We know that on a number of issues. Now people wanted you to start handing down justice. Newt Gingrich joined me on this program last Sunday. Here's what he had to say about that. Listen to this, Mr. Attorney General.
He is not in any way recused on this information. He should be appointing an independent counsel. He should be demanding that we get to the bottom of this. I'm totally mystified because he's a great guy. He's a solid conservative. He certainly in his career has been a fighter. And this behavior is just totally unlike everything I knew about Jeff Sessions before the last 6 or 8 months.
Are you, sir, investigating the fact that the FBI used the dossier to get a wiretap against Trump associates and they did not tell the FISA court that the Democrats and Hillary Clinton paid for that dossier?
Let me tell you, every FISA warrant based on facts submitted to that court have to be accurate. That will be investigated and looked at, and we are not going to participate as a Department of Justice in providing anything less than the proper disclosure to the court before they issue a FISA warrant. Other than that, I'm not going to talk about the details of it, but I tell you, we're not going to allow that to happen. Do
we need another special counsel in place to look at what the FBI and the Department of Justice abused its power, how they abused their power?
Well, the Inspector General has been working very hard on that. He's been relentless and tough. I've heard some of his work that's been produced already. Much of what we know about this has been produced by his work and the Department of Justice. The text messages that have all been made public were disclosed by the Department of Justice. We've given Congress records and documents beyond anything ever been produced, really, probably in history, and we're going to continue to be open with them and be responsive. We have a responsibility to ensure the integrity of this process. I'm going to use my authority as the Attorney General to ensure that, but the management of this case, from which I'm recused, is in the hands of Mr. Mueller and supervised by the Acting Attorney General for this investigation, Rod Rosenstein, a proven professional and Deputy Attorney General.
Well, there's a lot of conflicts around the special prosecutor's team. We know that, but that's putting aside because I know you recused yourself. But there are felonies apparently that have already taken place. I mean, we had on this program just last week the chairman of the Intel Committee, Devin Nunes, and he said there are felonies that are not looked at all. They're going by over and over. Listen to what he told me just last Sunday.
The big felony in all of this that nobody talks about from the very beginning was the leak of highly classified information when they leaked the phone call of the Russian ambassador talking to General Mike Flynn right before the inauguration. That was a felony. Nothing's ever been done about it.
Is your office investigating this, sir?
That is a violation of the law to leak classified documents, and it is being investigated. I will say this, there are last 2 years before I became Attorney General, each year there was 3 open investigation of classified leaks. Now we have 27. We're going after this aggressively. I have directed it personally. Some of the matters involve this matter, and some of it is matters that I'm not recused on, and we're pursuing aggressively.
So you feel that there are matters that you can get into. For example, there's a lot of feeling out there that the Hillary Clinton email investigation was a sham. You know, Loretta Lynch told Jim Comey to call it a matter. That's exactly what he did, and in fact, it was a criminal investigation. We know that he wrote an exoneration letter, Jim Comey did, before he even did the interview with Hillary Clinton. What have you learned in terms of the reopening of the Hillary Clinton email investigation? Will there be charges? Will there be accountability here, sir?
Maria, we're going to do our job in this department properly and correctly, and I'm not going to be led into discussion of all the details of matters that you might be interested in. We can't do that in the media. We're going to restore the rule of law. We're going to restore propriety in how cases are managed, and that's all I can promise you.
Do you regret recusing yourself from anything related to Russia, sir?
I believe I did the right thing, the only thing I could do. I participated in this campaign, and as such, under explicit regulations of the Department of Justice, no one can participate in the investigation of a campaign in which they were an active participant.
Let me ask you a broader question here, because I know it's really hard. I'm sorry, sir?
You can't ask other members of the department to follow the law and follow the rules if the Attorney General himself refuses to do so.
Yes, that's absolutely true. In terms of a broader look at what's happened here, sir, I mean, we know that there was an incredible abuse of power at the top of the FBI and the Department of Justice now. We've seen the text. We know what has gone on. How do you turn this ship around? I mean, clearly there have been agencies, government agencies. When did it happen that they became so politicized? And can you change this?
Maria, I'm not going to acquiesce and acknowledge the correctness of all the statements you've made. People will make up their own mind in due time about those things. But we are setting a tone of professionalism and responsibility and lawfulness in this department. We expect it of every member. We've got a new FBI director, a new deputy FBI director, a new legal counsel in the FBI director's office, and a new press person in the FBI's office. So we've made some real changes there. Chris Wray is a man of integrity and decency, brilliant lawyer, an experienced Department of Justice employee. We intend, and we've made other changes within this department that I think will put us on a path to fulfill my responsibility to the American people, and that is to conduct our work professionally, honestly, and without political bias.
And that's all we can ask you to do, Mr. Attorney General. Up next, more of my interview with the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, including his take on the missed warning signs in that deadly Florida high school shooting spree. That's next. Follow me on Twitter at Maria Bartiromo, at Sunday Futures. Let us know your thoughts on Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Stay with us. We're looking ahead right now on Sunday Morning Futures.
It's okay that everybody ignores me when I drive. It's fine, because I get a safe driving bonus check every 6 months I'm accident-free. And I don't share it with Mom, right, Mom? Right.
Safe driving bonus checks only from Allstate. Switching to Allstate is worth it.
Get a free mesothelioma book from mesobook.com.
People who have been